All right, guys, Andy Baker here of andybaker.com and owner of Kingwood Strength and Conditioning. And today we've got part 2 of our heavy, light, medium frequently asked questions series. Okay, so no intro here. We're going to go ahead and get cracking right on the next 4 questions. So we got 16 total questions. We got through 1 through 5 in part 1. Today we're going to go 6 through 9. All right, so question number 6. Should we train all of the heavy lifts in one day? All right, so we've got our 3-day-a-week system, we've got our heavy day, we've got our light day, we've got our medium day. Sometimes the way that we write this on paper is that Monday is all heavy, all right? So we are gonna heavy bench, heavy squat, heavy deadlift, and then Wednesday would be all light stuff. So light squats, maybe overhead presses for your light pressing movement, and then maybe something like chin-ups for your back movement. So all 3 kind of easy, low-stress movements. And then Friday, everything would be medium. So we do your medium squats, a medium bench press, and a medium deadlift. That definitely works. And as I'm going to get into probably down here at the bottom, I'm going to get into there is a few compelling reasons why you would want to do that. But for most people, for the general strength athlete, for the recreational lifter, or even for the competitive lifter, it is probably a better idea to spread load the stress around throughout the week for a couple of reasons. One, unless you're a complete novice, training the squat, the bench, and the deadlift all heavy and maximally in one session is a bitch. It's a bear to recover from. It takes forever to get through, and chances are that at least 1 out of the 3 lifts is going to be compromised in some way from the execution of the other 2. So, it's one of those things. Can you do it and can you recover from it? Sure, but if there's a way that's just as effective, that's not quite as hard to do, then there's no reason not to take a slightly easier path if you can get the same result. And then I'm a realist. I work with real people, in the real world, and time is always a big consideration. And so anything that we can do to shorten the length of a workout and still keep it productive, we're always trying to do. So if you can spread the lifts around, the heavy day lifts, onto different days of the week, you're going to be able to shorten your workouts a little bit, and you'll be able to also increase your focus a little bit. So let's say on Monday, you're going to have a heavy squat, a medium bench, and a medium deadlift. Well, in my mind, if I'm going in there, it's just a heavy squat day. The medium bench and the medium deadlift, it's bullshit reps, all right? I pretty much know I'm going to get them. They're not causing me any stress or anxiety. I'm not having to really gear up for it mentally. So in my mind, I just got to go in there and knock out my squat. And once I get that done, the rest of it is just a completion grade, okay? And then maybe on Wednesday, we're going to do a light squat, an overhead press, and a heavy deadlift, And so same thing there. I'm really just focusing on my press and my deadlift. Maybe the deadlift isn't going to be trained for all that much volume on the heavy day. So it's really just I got to go in there and knock out my heavy presses, knock out a heavy set of deadlifts, and then hit my light squats, and I'm done, okay? A lot shorter workout, much easier to focus on, and then perhaps on Friday, we're gonna do a medium squat and a medium deadlift, or a light deadlift, and your heavy bench. And so same thing there, that's just a heavy bench day. I'm gonna go in there, my focus is gonna be on hitting my target numbers for my bench, and then after that, the medium and light squat and deadlift work, it's just a completion grade. I can move through it really, really fast. It's a good way to build work capacity, do the heavy stuff and then hit your lighter stuff. Try to shorten your rest periods and get in and out of the gym as quickly as possible. In the long term, you're gonna be able to recover better from that. I don't like going into the gym and just having an all light day or an all medium day. If I don't have a number that I'm trying to hit, if I don't have some kind of PR that I'm trying to work for, or some kind of goal I'm trying to attain, it's really hard for me to get motivated at this point in my training career. Some of you guys are the same way. Some of you don't care. But for me, I want to go into the gym and I want to have a goal. I want to have, an enemy to slay, so to speak. And so I like to have at least one heavy lift. It'd be very hard for me to get motivated to come into the gym, say on a Friday afternoon when I don't want to be in the gym anyway. It'd be very hard for me to come into the gym and just do a bunch of medium stuff. Okay, I know I'm going to hit it. It's not really a challenge. I might welcome a little bit easier workout, but it's just hard for me to get motivated for something like that. So, but we will come back to a reason here in a minute as to why you might want to do that, all right? But for now, question number 7. How do I know if the volume and the intensity on my program is right? Okay, so you have to have, this is a mistake. It seems like people wouldn't make this mistake because it seems like it should be intuitive, but it's not. When you set up a program, whether it's a heavy, light, medium program, any type of intermediate program, you have to have some metric by which you're tracking progress. Your heavy day is where you're going to be gauging progress. All right, so you need to pick what is it that you're trying to improve. What number? Is it a 1 RM? Are you training for competitive powerlifting? And if that's the case, then obviously you're only going to judge progress by training singles, okay, or what you can do for your best single, because in a meet, nobody cares what you can do for a set of 5. All right. Now, on your heavy day, that doesn't mean you're going to go in and train up to heavy singles every single heavy day, because we know that in general that doesn't work. All right. But maybe every 3 weeks or every 6 weeks or however you set it up, you're going to go in there and you're going to take out some heavy singles on the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. If they go up, you're making progress. If they didn't, then you really can't say that you're making progress, okay? Your 5s might go up, your 3s might go up, and all this stuff, might happen. You might get, a PR for your volume work and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, if that's not what you're trying to progress, then you're not really making progress and you need to adjust things. Maybe you need to hit singles more often. Maybe you're doing so much volume work that when you come back to your singles, you're so detrained from the higher intensity stuff that it just doesn't carry over, okay? Or maybe you're doing too much intensity work in order to chase those bigger numbers and you're not getting in enough volume, and so the stimulus is not there to get you over the hump to set new PRs. But either way, you need to have something in place, and it should be on your heavy day to where you know whether the program is working, and you need to kind of have periodic checks of where you're at. So, I mean, in general, anything that's in like the 1 to 5 rep range, if you're a strength athlete, any kind of PR that you're setting in that range is generally going to carry over into a 1 rep max. So, if you put 20 pounds on your best triple, your 1 rep max probably went up. So it's not necessary to test your 1 rep max all the time. But that's where, if you go back to video number 1, I talked about the heavy day system where you have that one top set followed by back off volume. I like that personally because I like to gauge progress off of just that one top set. I like to go in there, knock out a heavy triple. Did I set a PR on it? Did it go up, or did I get the same weight but it was easier this time? So I like to have that kind of that one top set on there to kind of gauge progress, and then I can get the back off work from there. So it doesn't really matter how you do it as long as you have some metric there that makes sense. And so if you've got a metric here that makes sense, okay, so your top single, your best set of 5, whatever it is, if it's going up on a fairly regular basis, so we might say a weekly basis or close to a weekly basis if you're working in some kind of cyclical type deal, but as long as that number's going up and your body doesn't feel, like beat to shit, then I'd say your volume and intensity for the program is set up correct. So you've got enough volume or enough stress, combination of volume and intensity. You've got enough stress in the program to drive progress, but you're not doing so much that you can't recover from it and actually kind of display that adaptation. So now if you're not making progress, or let me backtrack a little bit. Let me say you are making progress, but you feel like shit, okay? You're sore all the time, your joints are beat up, you just generally kind of feel overtrained and overreached or just beat up all the time from your training, but yet you're still making progress. There has been so many situations I can't tell you where I think lifters have been making gains in spite of their programming rather than because of it. And you might be able to back off a little bit and make the same amount of progress and feel a little bit better, shorten your workouts, have better recovery overall with a little bit less work. So, you don't want to make huge cuts in volume if you're making progress, but even just backing off a set or two here or there, or slightly lowering intensity on some of maybe the light and the medium days, you may make progress just the same with a little bit less work. And so, I'm a fan of doing the least amount of work possible to make progress. If you're not making progress, it comes down to 2 things. You either don't have enough stress in your program, or you have too much stress. Basically, any problem or any solution that you're going to come up with is going to fall into those 2 categories, all right? So if you're not making progress on your volume day, on your heavy day, if you're not making progress on your heavy day, then it might be because you just don't have enough overall stress in the program to cause your body to adapt. All right, and so, or it might be the other way around where you're doing way too much work and there's just no way you can come in on a weekly basis. You're never recovered, you're never feeling fresh, and so you're just not able to ever put more weight on the bar, do more reps, add another set, whatever it is. And so, how do you know which one it is? Okay, most of the time you can pretty much figure it out with a little bit of common sense and a little bit of instinct. Okay, when I do a consultation with somebody and they tell me that they're stuck, a lot of times before I ever even look at their numbers, before I ever even look at the piece of paper where they have written down their programming for me, I will ask them, what do your instincts tell you? Do your instincts tell you that you're doing way too much work, or do they tell you that you're not training hard enough? And almost, I would say 99.9% of the time, their instincts will square with what I see on paper, okay? If a guy is coming to me and he's squatting 12 sets per week, he's doing 5 heavy squats on the 5 heavy sets on the heavy day, 3 squats on the light day, 4 sets of squats on the medium day. He's coming in, he's squatting 12 sets per week, and he's not making progress. Very rarely am I going to look at that and say, well, you need to squat more. You just need to do 20 sets per week, or you need to do 15 per week. That is almost never the problem, all right? Now, in that case, I'm going to say, look, we either need to maintain this volume, but we need to back off the intensity a little bit. In other words, all of your sets are just too heavy. You know, you're doing 12 sets per week, and every one of them is an all-out grinder. That's not going to work. Like, that's just not going to last. You know, and on the same token, we might say, all right, well, we need to just back off the volume a little bit. Instead of 12 sets per week, you know, let's shave a set off each day. Let's just do 4 sets on the heavy day. Let's do 2 on the light day, and let's do 3 on the medium day, and let's go from there. And that, within a week or two, that might be enough to get him recovered to where he can kind of move on again. All right? Now, let's say a lifter comes to me and they show me his program, and I'm looking down and I see that he's squatting 1 day a week for 1 all-out work set. Well, I mean, that's a no-brainer. I'm not going to have him squat every other week. Okay, so in that case, you look at it, you go, you got to have more volume. You're going to have to add more sets. You need a light day, a medium day. You know, you need whatever it is, but we're going to add volume there. And 9 times out of 10, what the lifter will tell you before I ever even look at his program, will square with it. He'll say, yeah, I just don't feel like I'm squatting enough. I just don't feel like I'm in the gym regularly enough with my under the squat bar as often as I need to be. Every time I get under the bar, it kind of feels foreign to me. I feel like I'm having to kind of relearn my groove a little bit. Or the guy will tell me, God, I just feel like I'm just beat to death, and I'm literally crawling to my front door after the workouts. I feel like I'm just overworked. Trust your lifters. Trust your instinct. If you're a coach, trust your lifters' instincts to a degree. Okay, the more experienced they are, the more you can trust their own instincts. If you're programming for yourself, trust your own instincts a little bit when it comes to setting up the right amount of volume and intensity on the heavy, light, medium program or any other program for that matter. How do I progress on the heavy day? Okay, well, we kind of just went over that a little bit. Again, you have to have a metric that you care about that makes sense for your goals in place. Now, let's say you're doing this more for putting on mass or physique or whatever. On your heavy day, your metric might be your best 5x5 because we know that mass is going to come on better through higher volume work than it is from really high intensity work. You know, your best single or your best double isn't going to do much in terms of building muscle mass, but increasing, say, putting 20 pounds on your best 5x5, well, that's definitely going to help to add some muscle mass. So, you know, that metric might make more sense. So whatever it is that you're trying to progress, you need to have a system in place on the heavy day to try to make steady weekly improvements. Now, there is an intermediate program. Sometimes I talk about weekly linear progression. In other words, a true linear progression is every time you come into the gym, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you go up in weight or you set a new PR. There's a performance increase. So that's kind of the hallmark of the novice program. We squat 200 pounds for 3 sets of 5 on Monday, and on Wednesday we squat 205 pounds for 3 sets of 5. So literally every day we walk in the gym, we're making progress. That's a true linear progression. Then we have what's called a weekly linear progression, which would be we're still making progress on a trend that looks fairly flat like this, all right? But the gains are only coming on Monday. We're only displaying that performance increase on Monday rather than Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That works for a while for an early intermediate, but it's not really expected that somebody that's been training for, say, a year or 2 years or 3 years is going to be able to come in every Monday and add 5 pounds to his 5 sets of 5. That's just really not going to happen. It might happen at the beginning when you first kind of get into intermediate level programming, if you set things up right and your nutrition is sound, that sort of thing. You might have a nice long run where every Monday on your heavy day you just add 5 pounds and it's very linear like that. Over time you're going to have to get cyclical, all right? And that's the cyclical approach is generally what we're going to use on the heavy day. As an example, and I kind of went over this a little bit, I believe in the previous video. Week 1 we might work up to a top set of 5. Okay, so you can call it a 5 RM or a near 5 RM, but we're going to work up to a top set of 5 on week 1. Followed by some back off work. In week 2, we're going to work up to a top set of 3, followed by some back off work. In week 3, we're going to work up to a top single or double, followed by some back off work. All right, so we've got a 3-week wave of 5s, 3s, and then 1s or 2s, and you would just repeat that. That sort of thing is going to work better for a late stage intermediate. When I do my 852 programming, and I've done 852 programming with HLM programs. I use 852 programming in all of my power building stuff. That's the same principle. It's a 3-week wave, just repeated over and over again. And that works really, really well at the intermediate level. And some people will say, well, that's not intermediate programming because you're setting PRs on something every 3 weeks. That's more advanced type training. And it's not. If you're setting a PR every week, even if it's at a different rep range, that's weekly progress, okay? So every Monday I'm setting a new PR, albeit one week it might be a set of 5, the next week it might be a heavy triple, the week after that it might be a single or a double, okay? Every week I'm setting a new PR. That is, as we define it, is still intermediate programming. It's just operating cyclically. And after the first few months of intermediate programming, pretty much everybody that I work with, I'm going to be putting them on some sort of cyclical program because that weekly linear progression is just not really going to work anymore. Okay, it's too aggressive. All right, so that's how I would progress on the heavy day. Maybe start linear, but then over time you're going to have to work in 3-week cycles. If you haven't seen it, if you want to train with more of a volume approach, I would suggest that you go back and look at my volume cycling video. The volume cycling approach can also be used on a heavy day, and that's the same principle, a 3-week wave, but instead of the one top set, we're looking at cycling more of a volume approach. So between 5x5, 5x4, 5x3, that sort of thing. So go check that video out if you haven't seen it already. Last question for this. Heavy, light, medium for sports, cardio, and military. So in other words, how does the heavy, light, medium system work with sports training, people that want or have to do a lot of cardio, military guys, which again, a lot of them, they're kind of in a situation, being former military myself, where you're forced to run. You don't have a choice. You've got to go out. Monday through Friday was going to be probably minimum of a 3-mile run for us. It could have been more. So how do you program around that? Because, if you go on you've got a 5-6 mile run on Tuesday and then you're planning on, squatting heavy on Wednesday, how do you manage that? Because you're probably not going to get your numbers that you wanted to hit based off of that fatigue. Even with adequate sleep and adequate nutrition, we just know that sports or activities that require high volumes of running take their toll on strength. And so things get a little bit erratic. What I would tell you is that you need to structure your heavy, light, medium week in a way where you can find a rest day, a day where you don't have to run, and you need to put your heavy day after that, all right? So that might be, let's say for you military guys out there, let's say you're in a situation where your unit does unit PT and you have to run Monday through Friday. What would I do there? I would probably put my heavy day, at least my heavy squat, but maybe all of my heavy lifts, I would probably put my heavy squat day or heavy day completely on Sunday, all right? And then I would have Saturday off, hopefully. So, when you're stateside in the military, you pretty much work like everybody else, a Monday through Friday schedule. Most of the time you get the weekends off. And so Saturday, maybe you don't have to run. You have a day of complete rest on Saturday. I would probably eat more carbohydrate than normal. I would try to carb load as much as possible on Saturday. I would do no training or no activity at all. And then Sunday is when you would roll into your heavy day. You would not be depleted from all the running. You'd be full of glycogen, and you would hit better PRs on Sunday. Now, Monday morning, you're going to be sore probably, and you're going to have to go, hit the trail again on Monday sore. But it just depends on how important this stuff is to you. Would you rather squat after a long distance run and have your squatting compromised, or would you rather have to run after a heavy squat and have your running compromised? So I find that I'd probably prioritize the squatting first, but your situation may be unique, so do what you need to do. But that's the way you're going to set it up in any sport or any activity that requires a lot of running. Find some days of rest and set that heavy squat day at least. Because the other days, the bench and even the deadlift is not as affected nearly as much as the squat is by long distance running. So, that glycogen depletion and just the fatigue from the long distance running has a big effect on the squats. The other lifts, not as much. And so, and then also with the light and the medium squatting, if you have to run the day before a light squat or you have to run the day before a medium squat, it's not such a big deal. You just want to try to really save that energy and get some recovery built into the system on the day before the heavy squat. Anyways, that is part 2 of the frequently asked questions for HLM, and we will come back at you in another day or two with part 3, and that should be it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Again, if you like the video, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks a lot.